to the bottom. Put satellite to the bottom. There we go. We are live. Go right ahead, Sharon. We're live. Looks like
And
people are
good
already up there.
evening. And how are you today as we get ready to end July? We're at the end of July.
Already?
Yes,
Wow, man, the
yes.
year is just. Ooh, we're
I
halfway.
know.
Are we halfway
We're
through?
over halfway through.
Damn.
We only have about 5 months left
Isn't that
in this
something?
year. It's
Wow,
just
that's crazy.
flying right on by.
That's crazy.
Well,
Wow.
good afternoon. And we are taking the journey together. And we're so glad that you're here to take this journey with us today.
Yeah.
Um, I am Sharon or Zare, and I'm here with Craig or Imar.
Yes.
And we're happy to be here again. I well, we're running, trying to do several different things at the same
Yeah, I
time.
got a
So
big
we
event this weekend we're doing
exactly,
in the Richmond Hill
yeah,
community. Tell a little bit about it while I'm
yeah,
trying to get us
and then that's what I
technically
was
back up a little bit.
exactly
Yeah.
what I was getting ready to do. Our minds are on the same page
Yep.
today. We have a backpack school supply giveaway in Richmond Hill tomorrow. Not tomorrow,
Few days from now.
Saturday. So we're trying to get the sound ready for it. We're trying to get the backpacks ready to be stuffed, and just all kinds of little odds and ends that we have to do. We had to make sure that because there's a movie that goes along with it. There's
Oh, wow. Haven't downloaded the movie yet.
we'll be
Man.
another late night, but we have
Yeah.
we have these late nights on
Well, we
excuse me
all
on a regular basis.
we're always trying to make something out of nothing. That's just
Yes,
it's part of what we do.
exactly.
Yeah, been doing that for years,
Yes,
making something out of nothing.
and you've been doing it much longer
Yeah,
than me,
yeah.
but
It's usually not nothing. It means you don't necessarily have enough resources,
yes, and that's what the nothing
money,
is.
or
Yes,
people from
uh-huh.
that standpoint.
It's the
of view.
lack.
Exactly, but yet you still can pull it off as if you had all the resources and
Yes,
people, not
yes,
necessarily at all.
and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the people who are doing things like that, and this has been um, typical of our culture for
Mm-hmm.
centuries. We're resourceful,
Mm-hmm.
so we can take a little and create a lot from it.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things, especially when you are working with someone. And that's one of the things that we do in this relationship is we
Try
work
to.
together. We get on each other's nerves sometimes, but we still, we come together and we work it out. And that's what you do, because as you say often, nothing is perfect. It is never going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So you make the best of what you got.
And also too, I want to cut in real
Go
quickly.
ahead.
Is you need to have the passion,
Yes.
and that passion has to be directed and focused into a purpose and a reason.
Hmm.
And that purpose and the reason becomes that foundation and that drive that pulls you forward, even when things are rough, even when things don't feel good, look good.
Hmm.
And people don't necessarily act the way you would want them to, or that you plan. Now they plan
Yeah.
to at the same time. And so that means sometimes you don't have the resources, the people, and the
The
money,
bodies. Yeah.
But yet you will, many times get it done, and that getting done usually means you usually have to do it yourself.
Exactly.
From
And
that end.
and it's frustrating, it's tiring, it's exhausting,
Hmm.
but it's rewarding also when you
Well, what
see.
you're doing, that is. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes, when you think about, some people may die um, uh, doing something that is not fulfilling.
right.
It was full of material things,
Mhm.
and it didn't do nothing but just for themselves. um, I would rather die
Helping
doing
somebody.
helping someone,
Yeah.
which is much more fulfilling
Mhm.
than the other way. That's one thing
Yes.
for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So that's where we are with
Hmm.
right now, and so that's why we apologize for being a little late getting started, and we thank you for sticking with us, and waiting for us
Well,
to
Mr. Hall, I mean, he in the
come on.
background, he kind of helped us get things started.
Absolutely.
We thought we were going to do it for ourselves, not knowing that was a bad time for us because of all of this great event, second annual event that we're doing this
Mhm.
weekend at Richmond Hill for the BIPOC community between two apartment complexes.
Yes.
We got a lot of things going on: motorcycle club,
Corvette
Corvette
Club.
club. We've got something about sickle cell anemia that's coming.
Mhm.
Voter registration is coming, and some and in the movie that you're talking about, and music and food.
Yes. Yes.
So I mean, that's a lot to kind of put together and organize,
That it
and
is.
make sure that it's something successful to give people good morale and uplift there,
Mhm.
especially the young kids. So don't forget, we're also giving off backpacks for school, which is what
Mhm.
this is, school
Backpacks with
backpack.
school
Yeah,
supplies in them, and
exactly.
volunteers. We're always looking for volunteers for
Hmm.
our projects and things of that sort. So yeah, that's where we are.
So while we're talking, make sure you share our show today. Still talking about relationships. Share it with your friends. Share it with your spouse. Share it with your partner and your mate. Share it with your enemies.
Yeah, and maybe
Sometimes
they can stop being toxic.
exactly. One preacher said you put it in your deep freezer one day, you need to bring it out.
Yes.
And so we're still in the toxic stage. And wow, that's kind of prolific there.
Yes.
I would say that was a Freudian slip. We still once in a while operate in the toxic stage our own self. This is part 4, and some of you who are watching or are viewing in are saying, "Why are you still talking about toxicity?" Well, a lot of us are still operating in relationships that are
Yes.
toxicity. Are toxic, whether it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, or just people in your
Yeah.
relationships that are around you. They're toxic,
Yeah.
and
And
you're
stress has a way of bringing out that
yes,
toxicity.
yes,
And
bring it out and show it for what it's been hidden through
exactly.
manipulation. We
Yes.
call push, come to shove. People show
Right,
exactly what they're
right.
made of.
Or even if you don't know
Hmm.
that, sometimes toxicity is unintentional
Hmm.
on the surface,
Yes.
but it's been lurking there for various
Yeah. And
reasons.
when you get tired and you get kind of uncomfortable with yourself and one another,
Mhm.
it pops out. So,
Yeah.
and in a way, it's kind of like a virus that's hidden.
Mhm.
But if you start trying to take care of yourself, you start trying to eat the right food,
Yeah.
boy, many times that toxin will start rising, and you
Mhm.
start getting sicker
Yeah.
than you was before. You hear that before when people say that they've been eating bad food,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden they start eating good food. The first thing you hear them saying is they get sick. You ever heard that before?
Yeah, I
They'll
have.
start
I
getting sick.
have.
It's because of the fact that the toxins, you're starving the toxins in
Mhm.
you,
Yeah, and
and
they're fighting.
they're fighting. They're going, oh no, you found
Yes.
this out.
Yes.
We
Yes.
ain't leaving easily.
Right. And sometimes you have to get worse to get better. As
Yes,
as strange as that
in
sounds.
relationships, yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Sometimes relationships, we go through that. Those seasons, we talked about that
Yeah.
before with our doctor, who talked
Mhm.
about sometimes people are walking as functional
Addicts.
addicts or
Mhm.
functional toxic people. There's a lot of people listening to us right now who are in relationships, and they're functionally toxic in that
Yes.
relationship, or they
Yes.
know someone else in a relationship who are functionally
Mhm.
toxic. So we're going to be again talking more about that, and we're going to also talk about how can you know if you are, if someone else are.
Right.
That's where we're at right now. And plus, we'll be talking about how do you get out of those situations. What
Mhm.
can we teach you to help you get out of toxic relationships? And I don't mean get out leaving them, because we talked about that before.
Yeah.
We're not talking about escape the first time my
Yeah.
toe hurts, or someone keeps on looking at my toe that makes it hurt. No, we're talking about how to work out first
Yeah.
by acknowledging the toxicity that's going on, and
Mhm.
then looking at ways of how do we get rid of toxicity. We're
Yeah.
finding out toxicity is just really all about how empathetic are you?
Mhm.
How much do you really care? And what was one of the things that you came out with that explanation of toxicity? You remember what it was?
Yes, that the that toxicity is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another.
Yeah, it is. But
Yeah.
you had a better one. It
Oh
was
yeah.
empathy
The one
defined.
that the
Is what?
one that I
Yes.
absolutely loved is empathy is like a pair of glasses that you put on to see the world through someone else's eyes.
Yes.
And
Yes. It's
that
hard to do
speaks.
these days.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
It definitely is. And and when your toxicity triggers somebody else's toxicity,
Hmm.
which triggers your toxicity,
Hmm.
and you get into that cycle,
Hmm.
somebody has to step off and say, "Oops, I'm sorry.
That
We're
madness.
we're being toxic
Hmm.
towards one another, and that's not friendly. And so we need to back up, say I'm sorry, accept the apology,
Hmm.
and start afresh."
Exactly. Or chill and
Yeah.
take our time.
Say, "I need a minute."
Or 2 minutes, and sometimes it might be a night or something like
Yeah.
that. I hope you actually go by a good principle, which is don't let the sun go down on your anger,
Yes.
and that you two at least try to take your time out to apologize to
Mhm.
each other, or look at the things that made you feel not too comfortable before you start a new day and act like
Right.
nothing happened the day before, which really will linger over.
Mhm.
It's because you're still the same person you were that you slept before.
Yes.
Just because you close your
Absolutely.
eyes, you went into a dream state, as they call. Some people say a dream state is no more different than an awakened state. It's just in this particular case, you got your eyes closed.
Yeah.
And so when you wake up in the morning, in this case, you're in a awake state.
Mhm.
You still carried over what was there before.
Yeah.
And so it's important to try to make sure you have good closure with it. Otherwise, you're going to
Yeah.
carry that toxicity over
Exactly.
to the morning and carry
Yeah.
it on, and it becomes like a madness in a cycle.
And when you were saying that, you made me think about the people who
Hmm.
um give the silent treatment.
Yeah.
I won't talk to you for 2 3 days. Well, by the time that's over, you have forgotten what it is, and you still don't have any closure to it. So that toxicity is still lingering with you, because you're not talking about it, because you don't deal with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that note, because those who are first time looking at taking the journey haven't seen it before, this usually happens in relationships when people are going to relate.
Yes.
Am I right? That's
That's
what we're
exactly
talking about.
right.
People are going to relate. It doesn't make any difference about what.
But your mother, father, sister, brother, even Jesus says.
Exactly. We are going to relate. Yet, with taking the journey, we are all about trying to relate in what kind of way?
In a balanced way.
Balanced way, a healthy way,
Mm-hmm.
what we call a spiritual way.
Yes.
And that spiritual, healthy way, put it where the rubber meets the road. Or what did Joe Madison
Where the
from
goats can
Where the
get
Goats Can
it.
Get It? That's an old one. I've never heard that
I
before.
had never heard
Sorry,
that
the Joe
either.
Madison said it.
Exactly.
It has to do with the basis of what?
Of friendship.
Yes,
Yes, it
friendship.
starts
Friendship.
with friendship.
Exactly. And we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
associateship.
No.
We are talking about true friendship where
Right.
you're trying to present in a balanced way
Mm-hmm.
unconditional love
And
to one
friendship is
another.
something that has to be built.
Oh yeah. Well, if you don't know about it and you never practiced it before,
Mm-hmm.
or you didn't come into a relationship with it, there's no doubt about it. But yet, even if you did, like the couple that we met that
Mm-hmm.
basically came together under the basis of friendship, you can tell they've been building on that
Yes.
basis of friendship. We got to get them on the show too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, friendship is definitely something that has to be built in a relationship. Most of the time, you may not even know parents, relatives, or anyone
Mm-hmm.
else, or friends who have relationships that are really based on friendship.
Yes.
From that particular, the young people are trying to move more that direction. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, as they're trying to build that and build partnerships,
Mm-hmm.
or like they said, they're all about trying to what?
Build tribes.
No, well, trying to
Yeah.
build. That's what
Yeah.
they're about building with their
Absolutely.
kids and
Yeah.
themselves. So, and they usually try to, at least that's what they say, they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
build it off using the principle of
Uh,
friendship.
yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. It's old folks like us who are like, what friendship? They've never been a friend of mine.
which
Cletus?
which is the problem.
Cletus?
Exactly. Everybody wants to one up and put down.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
We're
That's
eagles.
exactly, and that's
You're
what the problem
supposed to.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, you hear that all the time. Women will tell a guy, well, you're supposed to. Supposed to what?
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes both ways too.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
usually when
you're supposed to
mhm,
clean the house. You're supposed to take care of the children. You know.
mhm.
So.
Well, and that's you're right. That's what's thrown both ways. You hear me throw it from a man's point of view,
Hmm.
from what he hears from women say that he's supposed to do, and then you're saying it from a woman's view when a man says that
And that's
over
keeping
to
it
here.
what?
What's that?
And that's keeping it what?
No, you tell me.
Balanced.
No, that's not. If it's
Oh,
operating that way, no, that's
okay.
two toxins.
No,
That's
no, no,
talking
no. I'm
stereotypes.
saying the two perspectives.
Two
Uh,
perspectives are keeping it balanced. How's that?
because you get a balanced view of it. You get what
Oh, okay, okay.
the
What the
male's
other
point of
sides
view
are
and
saying of female's point of view,
exactly, exactly.
which is usually how I looked at it in the first place, starting
Hmm.
taking the journey,
Yeah.
because I was able to hear both sides of
Hmm.
the road. With
Hmm.
my mom most of the life, she always spoke from a woman's point of view, and then my aunts were very strong-willed, if you may want to call it, independent women. So, but they were willing to open up and talk to me, and they would always talk about their point of view and what they
Yeah.
think men
Yeah.
ain't doing, and be open about it. And then, of
Hmm.
course, being a guy, I've always heard guy talk about their point of view when women
Hmm.
don't hear it. It was just kind of easy being to me called an ultimate observer in that area, saying that hey, both are saying the same thing, but they ain't getting together to talk much.
Exactly. They're talking to you, but they're not talking to each
and,
other.
and and that's when I figured out, especially after watching that Tyler Perry's movie about why did they get married. They kind of
Hmm.
showed that. I figured out in my mind, I, it doesn't seem those two are friends
Right.
in a relationship. That's
Right.
what it seems like. They don't feel like they are friends
Right.
whatsoever. And basically, that was the key point. They didn't, and we're not based on
Hmm.
friendship. Hey,
Hmm.
let's real quickly as we kind of spilled all that out real quickly. Why don't we go with our hot buttons? Because there might be some people who want to get on this train. We want you to pick up this hot button. We've got some people who picked it up already. They need to pick up these hot buttons, and so you can boldly go where no one has went before in your relationship, good or bad. Walk out proudly with a hot button. When
Yes.
people ask you, "Are you? What do you mean by hot?" You can say, "Yes, I am hot,"
Hmm.
and then you can tell them what hot means. What does that mean?
Hot means honest, open, and transparent.
Yes,
Something that is very important within a relationship.
friendship relationship, especially.
Exactly.
Many people
Exactly.
are honest. Some people are open. Many people are not transparent.
Right.
And I remember I was talking to you yesterday or a couple of days ago. It came to me that hot is kind of like a teeter totter. If you want
Hmm.
to imagine it in your
Yes.
mind, the
And
T is on one side, the H is on the other side,
and
and what keeps it balanced is the what? The
the
openness.
openness.
So
Yes.
some people are heavy on the hot side, no doubt
Yes.
about it. Meaning the what? Honest
On the
side, no
side.
doubt about it.
Uh-huh.
And they try to use the openness,
Right.
but many of them don't tilt to the other side of being transparent.
Hmm.
Why are you honest? Why are you being open? Usually, what they're saying or what it means by that is, what is your motivation for
Yes.
being that way?
Yes.
Because some people will be honest and open, but the transparency is not. I mean, they're not really telling you the motive operandi.
They
How's it
give
called? Motive operandi? Is that called?
yes. Yeah, whatever that is. But what they're not
What's
doing.
those mystery and crime shows you see? Happens all the
Exactly.
time.
Exactly.
How about the soap operas?
Modus operandi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. You
Yeah.
said that so well.
Well, right. but the
Mhm,
when you're in that position,
mhm,
sometimes it's because you're hiding something,
mhm,
sometimes it's because you're manipulating, and sometimes it's just in your mind because it's not important to you.
mhm,
Those finite details, you just don't bother with them because they're
mhm.
not important, but they're very important to the other
And,
person.
and that's why I say some
Yeah.
people feel on that end. It just don't take all that.
Right.
Those finite details, it don't take all that. And when that happens many times, then you can run in staying in the stage of being toxic.
Hmm.
Because to you, you may not think that that's not important to
Right.
your feelings, to your thoughts. But we find out that when it comes to being toxic, that's a mind thought that usually will keep. If you
Hmm.
usually keep that mind thought all the time, that means you definitely are not trying to look at things from what? From the eyes through somebody else. So
Exactly.
you're not very empathetic
Right.
whatsoever in that
Right.
matter. And that's how, in fact, that's what makes you toxic,
Hmm.
because you're not looking at that other person's point of view. You're not caring at all. Cultural conditioning sometimes have set us up to be that way
Yes.
through stereotypes.
Right.
The other person ain't gonna care. I mean, I grew up and I knew some of the guys I hung around. They said, "Man, them sisters ain't gonna care. They ain't never gonna care.
Hmm.
They're always just about themselves. You already know it. So we gonna have to play the game.
Right.
Get them before they get us."
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm assuming, well, I heard some sisters say the same thing too.
Hmm.
Kind of passed on
Yeah.
that kind of power play game that we have played a long time relationship. It has to do with no real friendship. So you
Mhm.
carry that toxicity on. Mind you of those, movies excuse me, soap operas that you see,
Right.
and then your relationships become soap operas, and you live that scripted reality, or maybe just that reality that you live. And
Mhm.
your relationship is just like a reality show,
Right.
and you go on and on with it. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's get right into this, and we want to talk a little bit about how can we, if we're all being toxic, or in turn, we know someone else is being toxic,
Mhm.
and we want to change that whole
Dynamic.
dynamics. I mean,
Mhm.
your words are powerful.
Yes.
The words you say have everything to do with what was given to you,
Yes.
and those words, can be spelled out. Some people say those words can be spelled out because they're like spells,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
spells were words. Come to
Mhm.
think of it, and
Mhm.
spells were put together from, eerie people we call witches, warlocks,
Or
or,
just
or, or
hateful people.
hateful people. But yeah. And those words can come to pass because your words are that strong.
Yes.
Universe is moving towards that. Sometimes people move towards your words as part of that
Exactly.
universe, what you
Exactly.
spoke of. So if you're
That's
cussing a lot, you can look that a lot of cussing might be coming to you
mhm.
because you're always cussing all the
Right.
time. Someone out, or putting a curse on someone. I better watch that out. But anyway,
But it's like
because
that saying,
mm-hmm,
when your kids and people being mean to you, you
mm-hmm.
say things like, what was that little thing? Sticks and
These will
stones may
break my
break my
bones.
bones, but words
Words
will
will never.
never hurt
That
me.
is so untrue.
Oh, I'm telling you, that is the most untrue thing.
You're not kidding me. Yeah.
Because that words sometimes cut to the core of what your um where your pain is in the
Mm-hmm.
first place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that's not an easy thing to deal with.
No, no. Well, some people have got their butt beat. I don't want to say that other words because I don't know if this is an adult network, but some people got their butt whooped on words.
Yes.
Seriously, just on
Yes.
words. Someone said, "That's the prince." It was just the principal of that because
Yeah.
he called me that out of my name, and,
Exactly.
and disrespected me.
Yeah.
Some people have been killed over
Mhm.
words. In fact,
Yeah.
many people have been
Yeah.
killed. Nations, countries, people
Or
have been
even
killed over
and
words.
kill themselves over
Over
words too.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So words are very
Yeah.
powerful. They create, and the universe bends towards that creation. How
That's
much more would it be if we would use words in a relationship that were more kinder,
yeah.
more sympathetic, and more empathetic, and
Mhm.
more loving and uplifting, and all that stuff towards one another in an everyday way, planting that kind of seeds where the universe would move towards that direction in your relationship. Maybe in your relationship you're not feeling that comfortable, you're not feeling that loving, you're not feeling that. I remember this song that I was listening to sometime before. It was kind of like a religious song where these two people were singing to one another, and they were saying, because we met each other, we feel like we've been born again. I'm like, what the heck?
Mm.
Was that a religious kind of terminology, born again? But in the
Yeah.
song called, lady or woman or whatever else, I feel like I'm born again. They were talking about that because we got connected together.
Mhm.
We feel like we are somebody new
Yes.
together because
Yes.
we connected together.
Yeah.
And they coined a statement to it as being
Mhm.
born again, which is a statement usually used in the Christian world when it comes to accepting Jesus into your heart.
Yes.
And it's supposed to change your very spirit, change your
Mhm.
very soul, change your whole concept of life.
Mhm.
And you'll be able to look at the toxicity of yourself and of your life, and ask for forgiveness. And because of that, you look at yourself being new, you look at other people being new,
Right.
and so
Right.
you act upon that newness.
Mhm.
Well, they were speaking about in the relationship, that's how that other person made them feel, and they feel born again. I'm thinking to myself, and what relationships are we having like that? Can friendship actually as a basis move people to a point where they actually feel that they're born again because of that friendship that they have with one another?
I
Wow,
I
that's kind
think
of deep.
so. I think so
You think
because
so?
I do because sometimes, and this is funny because as you bringing this up, it's
Mm-hmm.
making me really look at certain things. And when you take into consideration when we met, and
Mm-hmm.
as I was going through the low point that I was going through,
Mm-hmm.
being around you rejuvenated me, made me
Mm.
start to feel alive again, because
Mm.
I was not at a point where I was alive,
Really?
and I did not
You
realize
never
that
told me
at the
that
time.
before.
And that's what I'm saying. It's just connecting with me right now
Really,
as you're talking. I'm thinking back to this, and I'm like, yeah, that connection is what started me to live again.
really.
Yes.
So, hold on for a second. Are you trying to say that in turn I made you feel like you were born again using that same terminology? Terminology. I mean, I'm aghast behind it. I feel honored behind it. Don't get me wrong. Yet at the same time, I'm like, really? Things that make you go, Remember Anthony Hall used to
Yeah.
do that all the time. Things that make
We
you go,
go,
Well, that sure make folks out there. This is making me go, I've never heard her say this before
because
whatsoever.
I it has never come into me as clearly as this before,
Uh
and
huh.
this is an odd time for me to say it, but
Yeah,
I
over the
felt,
whoever's listening to this show, yeah, it's probably odd.
but I had never heard that concept of
Mm-hmm.
being born again in a relationship, in friendship,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
that
connect
is,
that two
and
together.
that's what triggered it for me, that that is a
Mm.
reality, because I was at a very, very, very low point at that time,
Mm.
and going through the motions.
Okay.
Yeah, you that was a reawakening, a rebirth.
Well, I'm going to say that as you spoke that, I still am from the Kansas City, Missouri area. It's called the show me area. So you're going to have to more show me
I will continue.
truth and then
I
verify.
will continue to show you,
That's probably
because
the things that make me go, from that
and
standpoint of
part of
view.
that is you have seen the transition of me from that first
Yeah.
time to now. So you have seen that rebirth, that regrowth, that coming out of
Hmm.
that deep place where I was. So anyway.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I just connected to mostly of the expansion and usualness of friendship that I present in a relationship. Have always kind of been that way, and which is why I push and believe in the basis of friendship in a relationship.
Hmm.
So, it would be if if the idea of coming together in marriage or a long term relationship that we both may agree upon didn't happen, then as a long-term friend in your life, that same type of presentation of who I am and what I believe, sometimes good and bad. Of course, I'm not always best. That's what balancing is trying to be about, or trying to move and develop about.
Hmm.
But the growing and structure of friendship, as you just talked about, is what we do when we try to be friends, real
Yes.
friends. We try to make it a lifetime. Sometimes it's a season, but we do.
Hmm.
So that's been mostly the presentation I've looked upon in our relationship. And yes, I fell in love with you. And yes, that in turn we had we still have some very beautiful times, even like we did this particular summertime. I'm not trying to do a Dear John letter too, by the way. But the connection of that born again through that song,
Hmm.
I forgot who made it. We may, try to look into it and find out. Um, um, just didn't make a connection into my mind until I was listening to it a couple of days ago.
Hmm.
I actually tested out a stereo system, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
and just popped up as one of the tracks, and I was like, "What is this?" And she was singing it, and he was singing it, going back and forth, and then they came in harmonized together and saying, "Woman, and don't you know you have made me born again?" Something like that. And he
Hmm.
had a big crescendo and all that good stuff, like you was in church,
Yeah.
going to go to heaven. I'm like, "Hey, wow, I this is kind of not odd, but yet it seemed like a dreamland fairy tale Disney thing,
Hmm.
knight in shining or whatever. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
knight in shining armor. I wouldn't say that, but it's like a fairy tale thing. And I'm like, wow, could that be that the connection here is that they're feeling that connection of friendship, and from that friendship, there is that connection through that relationship of being intimate and all
Right.
that comes along
Right.
with it, and there couldn't be that feeling of being born again, something that
Hmm.
you just got there saying,
Or
feeling
sharing
different.
purpose.
Yes, sharing purpose, something different about
Hmm.
yourself, something that you feel that you can do more, expand in life. And I thought about that, and that's the kind of concept, or that at least that statement when I was doing the church world, that born again was supposed to be. You were supposed to be
Hmm.
somebody new. Your thought process was supposed to be new. You're supposed to connect to life differently
Right.
new.
Right.
You're supposed to at least think about yourself being new and not like you used to be being old.
Right.
And you're supposed to connect with other people in this world being new and not the same way it was before, under the guise in this case, because I'm so to be more Christ like, Jesus like, in so many
Hmm.
words. But this song was just based upon the relationship and how we connected to one
Right.
another, actually created that bond and
Hmm.
feeling with one another. And I thought that was, hey, that's kind of unique right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a unique concept. I
Yeah.
like that concept though.
and it worked well for um, that. I think it became a number one hit. I think it was something to do a couple of years ago when that
Mhm.
song is. Well, anyway, while you're moving on some of these examples that have to do with manipulation
Mhm.
and dysfunctionality and being dishonest
Yeah.
and attaching judgment and words without clarification, which are all the definitions, or I call the high ingredients in being toxic.
Yes.
I'm gonna look on the internet while
Yeah.
you talk with everyone a little bit
Well,
about find out who came up with that song.
let, what I want to do is just kind of reiterate the topics or the overall principles of um, some examples of toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is you feel neglected and exploited, which you should not feel in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Neglected means your partner's not paying attention to you, or exploited means you're being used. You're just being manipulated and put out there. Um, those are two things you should not feel. But that's a sign of toxicity. You feel like you've lost yourself. And sometimes that's on your side. You poured so much of yourself into the other person that you don't take time out for yourself, or, the other person is just so much overwhelming
Mm-hmm.
that you try to keep up and try to fit in, and so therefore you're not a part of it. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that happens when you have a person with a very strong personality and the other one has a more passive personality. But it doesn't have to be that way. That is something within the relationship that has not been cultivated.
Mm-hmm.
um let's see, judgment, not curiosity, is the norm. There's so many instances where people say, "You're judging
Wow.
me," and others are, and it's like, I'm not judging you. I just have a
The thing
question.
that's different
I'm
about
just
a
Mm-hmm.
Vrbo
curious. I
vacation.
just don't know. And so that's one of those things that we have to watch. We all have, our own weird things that makes life both fun and challenging. The lifeblood of a relationship is curiosity, not judgment. If you like waking up early and your spouse likes sleeping in, that's okay. Instead of saying you should get up earlier, ask, why do you like sleeping in so late? And this is one of those things that we
Mm-hmm.
went over last week.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's, one of those things, because I can sleep. I love my sleep. I've always loved my sleep. But my lifestyle now that we have together
Mm-hmm.
has caused me to sleep like half the amount that I did when I was much, much younger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but I will sit down and close my eyes and fall asleep in a heartbeat.
You definitely can. I just looked at something, just real quickly,
Mhm.
interfacing with you, interminutes, real quickly. Billy Preston and Sarita Wright
Oh,
also did this song with you. I'm Born Again. I was probably in the. They're not showing the date. It was probably sometime in the '70s
yeah.
when that song was written from that end.
Or when they
Oh,
sang
when they
it.
sang it together,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know how to put this up on the screen. I would
70s
if I
or
could.
80s, but
So you know how we could put that up on the screen and people hear it, or is this not possible?
I have no
You
idea.
have no idea, do you?
None whatsoever.
Oh, really?
Um
Hold on for a second.
I know I'll
Hold on
find
for a
it.
second. Let me see if I can do this right here.
Now here's Billy Preston and Cyrene.
Okay, let me see if I can do this real quickly. Put it up
at
here.
least do a
Oh, is it share?
and
Let's do a share. See what happens. Share screen. And which one is it? The window?
um
Which one window is it?
I have no idea.
There it is.
There it is.
So let's put it up here.
And see what happens.
Uh oh. I don't know if I did. Um,
There it is.
there it is.
But
Okay.
can you play
Okay,
it?
we put it right here. Let's see if I can play it.
Yes.
Here it goes.
Now here's Billy Preston and Cyrita Wright.
You
No
just gotta
relation.
listen to the
With
words
you,
a little
I'm
bit.
born again. It was
Cause this is
December 1979.
Oh,
1979.
Your
that
softness comfort me through all this madness. Woman, don't you know with you I'm born again.
Come give me your sweetness. Now there's you, there is no weakness. Lying safe within your arms, I'm born again.
I was half, not whole. Instead, with none,
Reaching through this world in need of one. Come show me your kindness. In your arms I know I'll find this.
woman, don't you know with you I'm born again.
Lying safe within your arms, I'm born again.
Come bring me your softness. Comfort me through all this madness. Woman, don't you know with you I'm born again.
Come give me your sweetness. While there's you, there is no weakness. Lying safe within your arms, I'm born again.
Don't you know with you I'm born again. I was half, not whole. Instead, with none, reaching through this world in need of one. Come show me
Your kindness.
in your arms, I know I'll find this. Woman, don't you know with you I'm born again. Lying safe with you, I'm born again.
A ripe banana is one of the most
Wow.
dangerous fruits
I'm
that you
gonna
can
say
eat.
to
Do
you
not,
right
even though these
now,
look beautiful, eat.
I'm gonna say to you right now, if you think you are in a spiritual relationship and you can't feel that song, you ain't in one. If you two can't feel that way around about each other, if you can't connect and feel that kind of deep down connection, then nah, you ain't got a spiritual relationship. You don't have one. You can find one. You can work towards one.
You can build.
You can build one on friendship, but you ain't got one. Do you know and can you have a relationship where you two feel like you're born again? Somebody different. Someone
Wow. That
different than what you were before.
Yeah.
Can that really happen?
That,
Is it possible? Or is it just a song that you just listen to? I think you can. I believe you can. Got to work towards that. It's work to do, but you can have it. It ain't going to be all the time. No doubt about it.
Mm-mm.
Most of the time, we remember it during our courtship period.
Yes.
We were in that romance, or what they call that rosy colored
Mhm.
glasses. And we did whatever we could through the courtship period to put on our best self so that we could feel the best of ourselves. Sometimes, and many times, we try to play the most strongest friendship that we could do. And knowing full well we ain't never played it before.
Mhm.
But one thing's for sure, you can put it back on. You can make it part of your life. You can make it who you really are. Because that's how it should be. You really are. Hot, honest,
Yes.
open, and transparent is how your relationship through friendship can be.
Yes.
And you can have that feeling and understand that you too. What? How did they say that?
Are born again.
Are born again. We have to listen to that song again. Maybe play it another time on our show, just to kind of give that. How can I say it? That feeling and that energy, that spiritual energy that many times we don't feel in a relationship in our day and our time. And of course, as we're talking about today, because of the toxicity that's in our relationship, definitely a toxicity. Let's move on to another toxicity. You feel like, did we already talk about you feel like you lost yourself?
Yeah. Yes. We got through judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Not curiosity is the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about how um, people sometimes will make judgments about you that, and they will speak in such a way that it sounds accusatory or judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they may or may not mean it that way,
Yeah,
but once you say something that is in an accusatory manner, the response is going to come back defensive, and that's going to start that toxicity to flow out.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Flow, I like how you said it, flow out.
Yeah.
Toxicity, meaning doing things and saying things that come from thoughts that are not empathetic and
Right.
caring towards that person,
Mm-hmm.
because you definitely don't think of them as being no close friend to you at all.
Right.
Well, definitely do those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely do those kind of things. So, what's our next one?
You feel belittled and ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, does the person make you feel less than? Do they belittle you, make you feel stupid or ashamed? These are all signs of emotional immaturity, which makes for a toxic relationship. Emotionally immature people need to prop themselves up on a pile of your wrongs, failures, and
Mhm.
shortcomings. When they can't find something bad to point out, they tend to invent something or rub your nose in something from the past.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Being too critical.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when they're being critical, it's not, what's that other critical that people mistaken and have not heard of, which is called tough love, where they're being critical, but they're criticizing is positive.
Mhm.
Criticizing. What's the word they talk about?
Constructive criticism.
Construction. Yeah.
There's a difference, I think, in constructive criticism and belittling and tough love.
I would say so.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's what I was hoping to try to move.
Mm-hmm.
I just forgot the word construction
Mm-hmm.
or constructive, because most people look at criticism as being not
Right.
constructive.
Right.
They look at it as being destructive,
Yes.
and therefore not comfortable with being criticized at all.
Right.
But I think it has a lot to do with the fact that most people in a relationship, starting from their mom or their dad,
Mm-hmm.
that their criticism that they got from their mom or their dad
Yeah.
was destructive.
Yeah.
It was pretty much as this has just got to telling us.
Exactly. Because
They
there's
piled it on top of you,
Right.
piled it on top of you
right.
to cripple you, to basically break you down. It wasn't there to build you up.
No.
It wasn't there to present to you that you got a side of you that's like a tumor, that you got the side of you like a broken leg, you got the side of you that's bleeding, they got the
Mhm.
side of you that's deforming you,
Yes.
and you got more potential about yourself.
Right.
And I'm trying to bring this to your attention because you're not paying attention to it, or you
Mhm.
don't see it, or you don't want to see it. Or as we see with toxicity, many times toxicity is like a virus or like a parasite. It eats off of you. Either you create it or it's
Mhm.
generational, and you're not paying attention to it. You just think
Right.
it's part of life.
Exactly.
Mama act like that, daddy act
Yeah.
like that, cousin act like that,
Mhm.
Pookie down the street act like that.
Yes.
How about this? Black folks act like that.
Yeah.
So we're going to act this way
Which is
with an attitude and all.
exactly. And we tend to normalize it
Yeah.
and say, well, that's just how it is, or that's how
Mhm.
everybody is.
Mhm.
And there is no such thing as everybody ever doing anything,
Mhm.
the
I
same.
mean, there are stereotypes and archetypes that people do from
Mhm.
cultures,
Yes.
and in turn the so-called thing called race.
Yes.
No doubt about it. But them are what we call stereotypes.
Exactly. And what stereotypes do is to focus on a negative
Yes.
that is seen in some and not all, but they focus on that negative, throw it onto everybody in
Mhm.
that specific group, whether it's culture, race, whatever,
Mhm.
throw it on everybody in that group and then judge them on it.
Well, I think you might as well say that it's still the outcome or the source of someone or somebody's or organization or a group, race or not, being what? Toxic.
Toxic.
They're
Very much so.
at the bottom,
Yeah.
at the end, at the root of it, they don't have empathy. They
Right.
have no care. They don't want to see it from that other
Mhm.
person's point of
Yes.
view.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's going to happen. They're going to believe. They're going to
Yes.
be ashamed, as you just got to talking about,
And-
and pile up those wrongs
Mhm.
on the individual. They have no intentions of wanting to see the best out of them or
Yeah.
help them, give them a hand up whatsoever.
Because sometimes they can't give them a hand up because what they're doing
Mhm.
is speaking from the perspective of themselves.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is they put on that person who they see has the potential not to be that, or
Mhm.
who they see is not that, but the negativity that they feel towards themselves, they put it on the other
Oh,
person.
that old mirror effect.
Yes, yes,
I reflect on someone else.
Mhm.
That was a fit. We
Yeah.
used to hear about that in the relationships where you get. And I'm gonna start from the guy's point of view. Guys, don't get mad at me either. Too. That's the only one I can think of right now as an example, where a guy may be out playing on this woman, having an extra affair. That's what I mean by playing. Y'all out there know what I'm talking about. And you come home a lot feeling guilty about it, and that guilt gets so bad it starts spilling out of your face. It starts spilling out of your how you talk or don't talk as you used to do. It starts spilling out because you're smelling a certain way, and out of your character. And it picks up from that mate, like, hey, this ain't your character. This is
Yes.
yada yada yada.
Mhm.
And what happens is your guilt gets so bad, you'll take the step because of toxicity and start doing a transferring and
Yes.
transfer that guilt on that other particular
Mhm.
person,
Yes.
and trying to make them feel guilty
Mhm.
when really who's the one that's guilty?
He
It's
is.
you.
Yes.
It's you. So you're just trying to avoid it. So you use
Mhm.
that toxicity of trying to blame someone else because you don't want them to have any empathy on you in this
Right.
matter. Because when you think about it, when that happens, and if you went open and honest,
Mhm.
because I mean, from that end, there's poly that's out there exists where you can have more than one relationship, but you got to be open and honest about it. It
Mhm.
does exist.
More than one person
More
in
than
the
one person,
relationship.
exactly. In this, I mean,
Mhm.
in this country, so a lot of that happens. So it's not like it can't happen. This is not like there doesn't exist and hasn't existed on this world,
Right,
because it has.
right.
So the guilt trip you're having is hiding from something that you feel is wrong.
Yes.
You don't feel it's the right thing to do because you're not really doing it,
But
the
you're
right
doing it
way,
anyway.
But you're doing it anyway. So that's what that guilt
Mhm,
is. You
mhm.
don't have any real empathy on your own self,
Yes. Yes.
and then you transfer it on somebody
Mhm.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop doing things that you don't have much care for your own self. But we already found out toxic people, they've been doing it so long. Or as Doc said, last sister was on, they're functional toxic people. They're
Yes.
They don't think anything about it as being bad, wrong
Mhm.
at all, because they've been doing it such a long time.
Exactly.
Their guilt, their conscience is even seared over that
Yeah.
particular matter. Some might even feel justified. I'm going to get back at that person because what they did to me. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. And sometimes it is, they feel that it is just par for the course.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. And here's the thing: everybody does it.
Yes. Yeah, that's the sad thing about it. If
Yes.
everybody does it, which is not necessarily true.
Yes. The next one is
Mhm.
you don't receive empathy.
You don't receive empathy. Wow. Empathy is like a pair of glasses that you already said before. They see through someone else's eyes, or Native Americans say,
Yes.
can you walk yourself in someone else's moccasins? Yeah.
Yes.
It's choosing to rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. A kind of biblical term,
Yes.
Romans 12 and 15. It chooses not to lecture those who are crying or why they should be what?
Grateful, or remind people who are doing well of all the suffering in the world.
What a thing to think about on the other side if you are being empathetic and you
Yes.
are choosing to rejoice with someone else.
Mhm.
You could think about that as being an element of having church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both of you are rejoicing together in the
Mhm.
connection of who you are, what you're doing, and what you're trying to do, and you rejoice about that. What a word to use as part of that.
Yes.
I'm gonna hang on to it again.
Yes.
Part of being and feeling that you're,
Get
born again. How many
Yes.
times in your relationship where you have did things where you both are rejoicing about? I'm not talking about laughing. I'm not talking about just smoking about it. I'm not talking about just drinking about it. I'm talking about where you have a natural high where you are rejoicing in your relationship about something that you're doing together. When's the last time that we felt rejoiceful in our relationship of what we were doing?
Oh wow. Let's see.
We weren't twiddling our thumbs. I know that was
No. I'm trying to figure out which one to mention.
Mhm.
Well, when we were in DC,
Okay.
just a couple. When
Just-
was it? A week or so ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
When was that? by the
That
way?
was well. There were several things. There
Mhm.
was the the time we spent at the museum. That was
That was a
amazing.
rejoicing side.
It-
Yeah,
it
the
was. That
National
was,
Black
National Museum of African American
that
History and
was a
Culture.
rejoiceful time.
Yes.
The history, the positive history that was there was
Mhm.
joyful. Even the history that had to do with us, that was what most people say wasn't rejoiceful. Excuse me, because it wasn't. But
Mhm.
the rejoice in this case we're talking about.
We have come through to the other
Well,
side, or we're coming through.
well, I think
Yeah.
it has everything to what we just talked about.
Mhm.
What toxicity doesn't have.
Yes.
Empathy.
Yes.
So we had and could look from other people's eyes that look like us,
Mhm.
the pain that they went through,
Yes.
and we had empathy for them from that
Mhm.
end.
Mhm.
Some of us may not have it as bad, being whipped or having a cross burn, or knowing that you got to keep your mouth closed or otherwise you're going to get killed or your kids are going to be taken.
Mhm.
No, but the empathy is to feel that in turn we still have, as they call what is it, John Esquire,
Mhm.
covert racism that still goes on.
James Crow
James
Esquire.
Esquire, exact covert
Mhm.
racism going on. Yet
Yeah.
our young men are still being killed right up front, as we see today.
Yeah.
And others who are doing more killing or getting, almost away with
Mhm.
it. But we still could look at that and feel ourselves and our ancestors and have empathy. And the joy was that what they did, how they passed on, we're
Mhm.
standing on their shoulders,
Right.
and we are living in a way which is not as burdensome, is not as I just use the word as tough as that.
Mhm.
And therefore our rejoicing is what they did to allow us to be able to relate together while we
Right.
were there.
Right.
And what a beautiful museum it was, isn't it?
Exactly, it was. And
What
know,
it is.
no, while we were there,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
very,
exactly.
very good. Yes. And another time that we rejoiced to some extent
Uh-huh.
was the connection with my daughter and her family.
I would say with the grandkids.
Yes. Yes. That was
Your daughter, that's a little question about that one. Yeah, I think even she still feels that same way too.
Yeah.
From the end.
But it was a
reckoning?
a movement in the
It was
right
a
direction.
reckoning.
Yes, it was. It
A
was.
needed reckoning.
It was one of those situations where you
probably rejoiced more in it than I did. Seeing the grandkids and our granddaughter, I do say that ours because she stayed with us for a little while.
Yes.
So it was definitely rejoiceful but delightful. It was definitely
Yes.
that.
But we have quite a few of those
Mhm.
opportunities to rejoice in the things that we're doing.
We're going to have to tell a little bit about, because the show's almost ending.
Yes.
Where can people see us at? Like on a website. Where can they see us on a website? And not call our show.
Our website is ttjt at takingthejourney-together.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ttjtogether. Instagram, it's instagram.com /taking the journey together. You can also listen to us every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. on WRUU. That's 107.5.
Don't forget about our hot button. Pick up our hot button right here. Go right to ATR if you want to, and you can message them. Tell them you want that hot button at $5 towards this very great channel that's streaming, giving you a chance to listen to information that you know you're not going to hear anyway, any other place. Even the inspirational show that you just saw today. We open up our feelings and our thoughts too at the same time to help lift your relationship up, so we can keep going through this journey together. And know that's on the job training. That's one thing for sure. Yeah, we may be old with this beard, and she's younger than me, but it's still, it's something that we got to work and move toward.
Yes.
At least we should want to. It's a choice that, of course, is there. And when you truly want to be friends, you want to make that choice in that journey together. Okay, Julius, I don't know, since we started late, we should end now,
Yes,
because
there's
it's
something
about
that's
7
coming.
o'clock. Something's coming on. So if that's the case, I'm going to say I'm going to give it over to you, and you'll do what you usually do.
Until next week.
like this.